You've just landed inside Launch Street, the innovation podcast, where we interview top innovators out there shaking things up so you can innovate and differentiate and get further, faster in this crazy, cluttered world. And now, innovation thought leader and your Superfly host, Tamara Kleinberg.
Big underwear, or I have these, I gotta tell you, I have these boy shorts that make you feel like you're not wearing any underwear.
Really?
The best boy shorts ever.
So I wear briefs to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not boxers, briefs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wear to bed, and I love them, but I haven't yet started wearing them during the day.
Yeah, I have these boy shorts that will make you, they really feel like you're not wearing any clothes. They're really, really good.
Because I can't stand that underwear line.
I can't stand it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to even know it's there. Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst. You like turn around on stage and all I can I'm like, damn, 4 asses. My 2 butt cheeks aren't enough.
I'll have to show you these. They're by Josie, and they're wicked comfortable. We always have the best conversation.
I know. Like, I don't know where the
business. And it's always like below the waist and above the thighs, or hair. Right. Below the waist, above the thighs, or hair.
Or hair. But nothing in between.
Nothing. That's crazy.
That's not nearly as much fun. Let's be honest. I'm here with Dawnna St. who is an intellectual can of Red Bull, and I know this firsthand. She is a serial entrepreneur and an author, and Dawnna knows that achieving real business growth can be like running the gauntlet on American Ninja Warrior over hot coals in hurricane force winds. That is exactly how I feel every single morning, Dawnna. So then Dawnna uncovered the 6 kick-ass strategies that transformed the gauntlet into a cakewalk. And within 3 years of starting her tech consultancy, Dawnna built a 9-figure business. I just want to be clear when I say 9 figures for those watching and listening, that is a lot of zeros. So
yeah, it's like 8 zeros and then a number.
Right, which I'm looking forward to because I would like a couple commas and a decimal, as you know.
Yeah.
Now she's the founder and CEO of esuitenetwork, and Dawnna is working to help successful businesses like yours, those of you out there listening and watching, to put $1 trillion into the middle-class economy and have a real impact around the world. Dawnna is also a sought-after keynote speaker on this topic as well. So Dawnna, hi.
Hey! How are you?
I'm great. And for those of you, when you watch and listen to this, I just want you to know we made a list of things we're allowed to talk about and things about we're not allowed to talk about. I'm not convinced we won't get to the not allowed to talk
I am so not convinced because it's never worked before.
No. So, Dawnna, let's actually start by fill us in. Is there anything in that intro, which is so impressive to begin with, that I didn't mention that you think everyone should know?
It really wasn't a cakewalk. Like everybody, oh my God. So you have a head coming out this way and a tail coming out that way.
There's my dog.
It's really, I'm just saying, I was like, hey, you got something that's sprung from your body.
There's some things going on over here.
There are things happening. It makes it easier, but you still have to do the work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole thing. You do have to do the work. I get people all the time. They just think like, I'm going to tell you to go and buy 1,000 lottery tickets and you're going to win. No.
It doesn't work that way, it turns out.
No.
Wow.
It doesn't work. Yeah.
If it did, I would be off this podcast and at the convenience store.
I would just go ahead and put that $1 trillion in the economy all by myself.
Right? Oh my God. Hello.
Why do I need to help anyone else?
So let's talk a little bit about that. So I think your goal it's a big moonshot, kind of impressive goal of the $1 trillion into the middle class economy. Why did you pick that as your goal?
Well, there's this whole, if you've seen any of the stuff out there when they talk about the economy, we have the 99%, we have the 99%, which is down here, and the 1%, which is up there. And, 1% owns 99% of the economy. Woo. So that means that if I'm going to give you for Halloween a Tootsie Roll, but then I'm going to take I'm going to give 100 kids one Tootsie Roll, and I'm going to give you 100 Tootsie Rolls is what it turns out.
Right.
So it really means that we have people that are in the 1%, and all they're really doing is taking money and churning it and using that money to make more money and keeping it there. And they're not actually putting anything back into the economy. And then we have people that are all the way at the bottom and they can't figure out how to get up. But the people who really make a difference in our economy, whether it's our housing prices, gas prices, anything that we buy, our consumables, it's that movable middle.
Yeah.
And if we can keep the movable middle, spending money, saving money, using money, we just have a much better economy.
So let's talk about how to do that, because I love that goal. So I want to start with, so you have this great book that I have read and marked up all over the place. It's called 6 Kick-Ass Strategies of the $1 Million Entrepreneur. And one of the things that you talk about in there is the blueprint.
The blueprint. Yes.
So let's give us an overview of what the blueprint, if I could say it, would really.
The blueprint. So the blueprint.
I suddenly have a British accent.
Yes, the blueprint. The blueprint. We're never going to get through this. Okay. So, the blueprint has. Well, let me give you a little bit about where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So before my business partner was my business partner, his name is Alan. Before he became my business partner, he was in this master's class. So this guy was brilliant. He graduated from the Naval Academy. He was a fighter pilot, like big brain kind of guy, right? Yeah.
Overachiever.
Total, like he wasn't even trying. Anyway, he decided that he was going to do this master's class. And every class that he had done thus far in the master's class, I did his homework. Right. Well, he had this whole theory, and his thesis was all about how every single solitary business was basically spawned or came from the same seed. So there is this one seed in business, and successful businesses not only recognize that they have this one seed, but they know how to constantly fertilize it and grow it. Whereas other businesses, when they don't recognize that they have this one seed, they tend to treat it improperly, and they let the weeds get crazy, and eventually the seed will die. And now he had to prove it, which is a nice way of saying I had a lot of homework to do. And so we really did set out on this journey to figure out, well, what are the exact commonalities of all these businesses? What do they really have that's all the same across the board? And we did find out that they do have these 12 foundational items that are all the same, and even more so, that if they consistently build upon these 12 foundational items, these companies always got more and more and more successful. And that's where the blueprint came from. So the blueprint really is the core or the seed of all business.
So this isn't just how you grew your business, which you did, but also based on the study of these successful businesses and what's that glue that they all had.
Exactly. What is that one core they all have? So what is that seed? What is that core? What does that blueprint look like?
Yeah.
Well, it has 4 main components, right? The first component is focus. Mm-hmm. All these businesses focus on one thing. Even when they grow and diversify, they all focus on one thing. So I'll really use a great example, which is McDonald's, right? So of course, people always look at these giant businesses and they think, oh, but what does McDonald's sell? And most people think, oh, they sell burgers and chicken,
right. Fast food,
and they're totally diversified. But that is not really what McDonald's sells. McDonald's sells consistency.
Right.
No matter how many times you go, it's going to be those fries, right? And if the fries aren't, you're like, hey, somebody must have had a bad night. So they sell consistency, and then they top that off with convenience. But that's the first thing that they sell. So they start with this core thing. And no matter how many times you go to McDonald's, you're going to go and you're going to see the same thing, the same menu across the board. Nothing really changes. I don't care what McDonald's you go to, where you're going to it. So that's the first thing, is consistency. And the second thing that you have to look at, the second main thing, is now once you figure out that core focus of your business, now you got to jump over to the other part. So now that I know my core focus of my business, I know what it is that I offer, I know who I'm offering it to, and I know exactly what it is, how they want me to give it to them. Then you have to go to the second part, which is now you got to make money, right? Like, it's great that but if you're not making any money, you don't have a business, you have a hobby.
That's right. Well, and you can't sustain if you're not making money. So you can want to have all the impact in the world, but if you're not actually making money to sustain it, that impact goes away anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So now we have to talk about making money. And a lot of people look at marketing and they immediately count marketing as a cost. But I'm going to tell you that marketing is a money-making activity. I do marketing all the time and I get paid for it, right? You do marketing and you get paid for it, right? So when you look at income, you have to start with your marketing, your leads and opportunities, and your sales. Those are the 3 parts of that whole marketing part. So we have our focus, and now that we know what we're going to do, we have funding, how we're going to make money from it. So that's the top half of the core. And then when we look at the bottom half, it's all about spending money. So whereas the top half is all about making money, the bottom half is all about spending money. And so the third part of the blueprint is the functions. You don't want to be reinventing the wheel every day, because now you're getting wasteful, you're losing productivity. So you really want to look at the functions of your organization, and you want to look at your people, your processes, and your technology. And in actuality, you want to look at your processes first, then your people, and then your technology. But you need to have those functions. In other words, if someone calls you and they want a contract, you might have to do the work to put that contract in the first time. That's the, the initial process.
Creating the process.
After that, right. And then after that, it should be a repeatable process that you consistently streamline. And then you look at the people and the technology that you can put in place to take that process off your plate and put it on someone else's.
Right.
And then finally, the last portion of the blueprint is the future. Where do you want to be in a couple of years? Seriously.
Which is interesting, though, that you put that at the bottom, because I'd say a lot of people would assume that that's up there.
Your future
side. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the reason that it's not is because what you do with your future is you define and decide the goals that you're going to have. You actually don't make money off those goals until you actually do something with your expertise in your marketing. Right?
So that's my issue. Every time I make a plan, I'm like, done. No, wait, not done.
Yeah, no, not done. We just call that whiteboard.
Just to start. Right. That's called all my sticky notes.
Yeah, exactly. And sticky notes is everything else. And
right.
And the thing about it is that the whole thing kind of works in a circle. It's a cycle, right? So you start with your focus, you go over to your funding, then you look at your functions, and then you look at your future.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people who wake up and they have the whole social entrepreneur thing down, and they're like, I'm going to cure polio.
Right.
And that is their future. They can see it. That's their vision, their mission, their goal. And then they can go and start working in their expertise. But quite honestly, if you have no idea how to get that expertise on board and you don't have the money to do it, then I don't care what your vision is.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a couple questions before we keep going, because there's a few areas I want to dig into. And the one question I have is, aside from this tail wagging like right next to me, like, I want to be part of the conversation.
Of course.
No, go away. Sorry. She's like surprisingly needy today.
Can't see her though, so you're fine.
Yeah. Okay. How do you know what that core is? So you're talking about McDonald's with consistency. And I think it's very easy for us as entrepreneurs, or in any business really, to fall into that trap of thinking our offering is our core. So I deliver, this mug to the world. I'm a marketing consultant, right? So how do you, if that's the place you're starting from, how do you figure out what really is your core?
So especially when you're talking, let's start with intellectual property people. Let's start there and work our way out, right? So when we're talking about intellectual property people, which means you're literally trading your brain for cash. That's what you're doing.
Right. And I think a lot of people out there are doing that.
Right, exactly. So if you're trading your knowledge for cash, then what you want to do is I have this thing called the 5 focus factors, or 5 questions that you really should sit down and ask yourself. And I'm going to tell you, if you sit down and you take a pen and you're like, I did it in like 2 minutes, you probably did.
Right. You're not thinking deep enough, probably.
You're not thinking deep enough. We want to make sure you really think about this. So the 5 questions go in this order: be, know, do, have, solve. What have you been that other people would like to be or would benefit from being? Now, a lot of times you're going to sit down and you're going to write out all these roles that you've been in. Like, I've been in this role and that role and this other role, and you have these 8,000 roles that you've been in.
Right.
But what I really want to know is not the role that you've been in, but what made you successful in that role.
So not the job title, but kind of what allowed you to rise to the top in that role.
Because think about it. Nobody really cares if you were a leader if you sucked.
Right. Good point.
Right. They kind of don't.
You're probably gone.
Yeah. They probably don't want you to duplicate that particular thing. Right. So look at what you did in those roles that made you successful. And my favorite thing to ask people, not only what you did in those roles that made you successful, but what was the thing that you really liked doing all the time?
Right. Okay. So what have you been?
Yeah. The second one is, what do you know?
What do you know? I'm writing these down, so I'm writing down. What do you know? Yeah.
What do you know? So what do you know that other people would benefit from knowing? And I mean, really, this isn't just some high level stuff. Like, you're deep in it. You know this. You
Right.
can take that first thing, that B, and you can look at that particular piece of expertise. And what I really want to know is, can you transfer that information that you know to another person? Because I get people all the time that's like, well, I know how to be a positive person. That's great. Can you transfer that knowledge?
So can I teach somebody else this skill? So like for me, I can teach people how to be innovative. So that's what I know.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Exactly. So is it transferable knowledge? That's what I'm really looking for. So we got be, know, and then do. What have you done? And I really mean skills. This is truly skills. This is not just woo-woo. This is the skills. What do you actually bring to the table that you can actually share with other people?
And when you say that, you're talking about like, here's my examples of success in what I know and what I've been.
Exactly.
Okay.
What skills? So for example, and I'm going to go to another one and come back to this one because it's important. And then the last one is, I always say, is what do you have? Right. And that's really a methodology, a method, a way of doing things. So if you look at the blueprint is a methodology.
Right.
But if I go back one step and I talk about the skills, I'm very skilled at sitting down and talking to people and driving them through the blueprint. So it's one thing to be able to talk about the blueprint. Anybody can read the book and go talk about the blueprint, but do you actually have the skills to help people find their own core and help them? Can you see when there are problems? Do you really have those skills?
Right. So it's really kind of, if I translate it a little bit, it's really kind of what do you truly have mastery of enough to be able to do that, and mastery enough to be able to teach or translate that to somebody or something else.
Right. So if I'm looking at the 6, I have the transferable knowledge. Right. I can teach anyone the 6. I can get and draw the blueprint 10 times every day, twice on Sunday. Right. I have the methodology. I know how it works backwards and forwards. But now here's the questions. Do I have the skills to actually help you implement it in your organization?
Right. Got it.
So there is a difference between knowing and teaching it, but now implementation is a whole new thing. And then the last part is, when you take those first 4 questions and put them together, what problem does it solve?
Right. Which right there, I would venture to say, like, not to put words in your mouth, of course, but that's really where you answer the question of, will people open up their wallets and pay for it? Because if you can have all the skill in the world around growing a bamboo plant out of a vase with marbles, nobody cares, then it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what it really comes down to. Is it something that when you look at it and go, okay, what problem does it solve? I haven't even gotten to the point of asking you, who do you solve it for? I just want to know, what problem does it solve?
So when you're watching and listening to this, first of all, I hope you wrote that down. And if you didn't, back up and write it down, those questions down, because I went through those questions, I think it was a couple months ago now. And it really opened my eyes to what I deliver and how not just how I deliver, but what I'm actually delivering to people. And I think, Dawnna, when you figure that out, you become more valuable to your customers because you really know what they want from you versus the superficial. So if you have a product, you might be selling a widget, but are you selling ease and convenience? Are you selling hassle-free? Are you selling bragging rights? Like whatever it is you're actually selling. And same for service. I think it kind of applies both ways.
Because people are only buying 4 things, 4 things ever, right? They're buying money.
Yep.
They want to make more money. They want to have less debt. They're buying time, which means they're buying efficiency. They want things to be efficient, faster. Productivity, they want it to be easier. Or quality, they want it to be better. That's the only, people think that everyone buys all of these other things. No, this is their logical justification for making it.
For why they're buying.
Their emotional one. Right. But these are their logical justifications. So in truth, you're really only selling 4 things.
So if you look at businesses that scale, would you say that the ones that scale have really nailed down that core and stuck to it?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I'll give you a really good example. And I like to use retail because retail sells so much stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so people,
the mall is so overwhelming.
Right. So people always look at retail and they go, and they always come back to me and go, but they sell so much stuff. And I'm like, but you're looking at the widget, you're looking at the thing.
Right.
What I really need you to do is look at what they sell. So look at Nordstrom's. When Nordstrom's first started, all they sold was shoes.
Right. Yeah.
That's all they sold. But it wasn't the product of shoes that they were selling. It was the people who sold the shoes. These people were so knowledgeable in regards to, oh my God, and helpful. And you'd walk in there, even if you didn't have the money, you wanted to buy the shoes because they were so helpful.
I know.
When they sell, now they sell obviously a lot of other things, but do you know if you walk in there and you ask about that person knows so much. These people have like master classes just in their products. So it doesn't matter. You walk in and they can tell you everything about everything about everything. So what they're really known for is this high-end, high-quality, knowledgeable service that you can't get anywhere else.
And, so here's the exercise I want people out there to do. And I think I might go do this weekend. I want people to go to the mall because I love retail. I agree with you. And there's so many different types of brands at a mall, whether it's an outdoor mall, an indoor, whatever, and go and figure out what each store is actually selling.
Yeah, what they're really selling. And then ask yourself this question, especially a company that's diversified.
Yeah.
Ask yourself how long you think they're going to actually stay in business.
Right. The ones who aren't clear. And the Gap went through that, right? They were like, we're kind of simple. And then they went to this, we're hip and cool. And people were like, no, you're not.
You're not. You're the Gap.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then they kind of had to go back to what they were. That's so interesting. And it's such a great exercise to figure out. So let's keep going. There's two other questions I want to make sure to get through before we go into a million other different things.
As we do.
That's right. I feel underwear coming, people.
Underwear is going to happen.
Yeah, it's coming again. But that didn't sound right at all when I said it out loud.
Yeah, that's cool.
So you talked about marketing being an income generating. And I know, when you and I are talking about paid marketing, that for us in particular, we're talking about keynotes as well as some other kind of types of activities. But we dig a little bit deeper in that because I think, I bet you there are people out there that when you said that are going, wait, hold on, but I pay to a Facebook ad. I pay to have a spot on TV, whatever their marketing is. But so how is that? Talk a little bit more about how that works.
Okay. So a lot of people think, of course, I get paid for doing speeches all the time, right? Yeah. So I do speeches and people pay me, and that's marketing because at the end of the day, I'm standing on stage, I'm sharing my expertise, and then the people in the audience are going, oh yeah, I totally need that, which then leads to 3 more engagements, which leads to 3 more clients. So let me tell you a couple of ways to do marketing where you're actually getting paid for marketing. So your expertise, I'll use mine. So my expertise is helping my clients build their businesses. And when my clients do well, there is no prouder mama in the world than Dawnna St. And so what do I do is when I have, whether it's a Facebook live stream, whether I'm going to go on stage, sometimes those companies will actually sponsor me and say, hey, do you mind putting a story in about us in your speech and we'll pay you a little extra for it? Sure. That's paid marketing.
Right.
I'm marketing for them, but I'm also marketing my expertise because I help them.
I love the flip on that. And I think for those out there watching and listening, I would really encourage you to think about how you can flip your thinking around marketing, because that's a whole mind shift around what marketing is. I think we're so used to, I pay and I get this marketing collateral, whatever that is, in return. But if you can flip that into actual income generation, first of all, it makes you want to do more marketing.
It does. I love marketing.
Well, and what I hear from entrepreneurs all the time is, I hate marketing. It just feels like this never, endless bucket and I don't know what works. But if you can flip your thinking on it and make it an income generation, it is a lot more palatable for sure.
Exactly. And then you know what works because you're everything that you're getting paid for.
Right, exactly. right. Because you're making money.
You're making money, so it's kind of
goal of all this, right?
Right, exactly.
Talk a little bit about people and process, because the mistake I see a lot of entrepreneurs and small business, actually, I would say small businesses overall make. In fact, I just had a friend call me the other day, and I won't use her name because I won't throw her under the bus, but she has this employee.
Was it Anna?
No.
Go ahead.
We'll just go through the alphabet. Anna? Yeah. No. Brenda? No.
No.
We'll just keep going.
Okay.
So I was trying to think of a C. I got lost at C.
I got you.
She was frustrated because she's got this employee who's got some skills, but not quite great at her job. So she was trying to create the process around the person. Actually, what I heard you say is create the process first and then the people. So dig into that, because we're
going to show you this one actually.
Okay, because we get so afraid, right? Because we're entrepreneurs, and frankly, for us, any small business, right? If you're 50 million and under, every employee
counts.
It's painful, right? It's not like a big company where they just kind of put you through the cogs in the wheel. So
exactly. It's completely different. And so here's the thing. So the first thing I'm going to actually give you, there's kind of a step-by-step to this, and it totally works. It so works. So the first thing I want you to do is, you're in your business. And so you're actually doing this stuff on a regular basis, whether you love it or not, you're doing it. And so the first thing I want you to sit down and do is write down all the processes that you do in your work. Now, I don't need you to write out the steps of the process, just the process. Like, I gotta hunt for leads. I gotta categorize those leads. I gotta make cold calls.
Right.
I got to send cold emails. So I have to do all my cold marketing, right? That's another process. So hunting, cold process, the warm process, the hot process.
Right. Delivering on it.
Those are 4 different processes. And then of course the delivery, So then once you have all of those written down, I want you to identify that. I want you to rate them 1 through 10. 10 meaning, oh my gosh, I do this. I am the bomb diggity. I am the best person in the world. No one is better than doing this than me.
And answer that honestly, because I think sometimes we, as the CEO of our own little companies, think that we're the best at everything, but we're not.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. I am the best at everything. Everything. Now, of course, my desk doesn't show that, but we're just going to go with I am the best at everything. Right. So write down all those processes. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you, if you do this right, you're going to do it over 30 days. Don't sit and just try to do it today, because tomorrow you're going to look and you're going to go, crap, there are 5 things that I forgot to put on this list.
Right. We have a lot of processes.
Right. We're going to keep adding to that list, and I want you to number them 1 to 10, 10 meaning I rock this, 1 meaning okay. Then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to put the letter A next to the things that you should be doing and B next to the things that you should not be doing.
Okay.
So I will give you a really good example. So I'm a geek, right? Yeah. And I know some people say they're a geek because they can really work their iPhone. I am actually a certified programmer, a certified web developer and designer geek. I am kind of a psycho about my website.
No.
I know, right? Like, no, it's surprising. Kind of sort of.
I knew that one about you, Dawnna.
Yeah, kind of sort of a psycho about my website. And I'm the person who designs it, develops it, puts the content in it. I do all of that stuff. And it takes me, if I'm being honest, probably about 2 weeks to do my website. Now, is that something that I can do and I do well? Yes, definitely a 10, a big old circle with a happy face, right? People paid me 10.
And you like it, right? I mean,
and I love doing it. Oh my God, because it gives me all the crap that I don't want to do.
Yeah, right. Right. So that's the key there. You can't love it because it means you don't have to do something else.
No. It totally gets me away from everything. Hey, 1 year I was not doing work I was supposed to be doing. I think I redesigned my website 4 times. Seriously. Totally.
That's me, by the way, with technology and Infusionsoft, because I love to learn it. So I will spend hours being like, I just need to figure out how it works first.
Right. And then it'll make me $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. And I had like 5 people coming to my website, but it was so important that I changed it 4 times a year. So now I'm down to once a year. But here's the question. And actually, it's one of my clients who pointed this out to me recently, which I thought was hilarious. So I said, no, I'm just going to do a quick change. It's not that big of a deal. And he goes, yeah, but is it something you really should be doing?
No.
What do you mean?
Okay.
Goes, how many CEOs are actually, and this is the question you have to ask, like it's an honest question. How many CEOs are sitting behind their desk? He goes, let's just say Microsoft, Red Bull, the big companies are sitting behind their desk. Actually, the CEO is redesigning the website. And I'm like, it's not a question we really want to talk about right now.
I'm sorry.
I gotta go.
What? You cut out there. You cut out. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta go. So this happens a lot. And so I'm not sitting here, listen, this is not me sitting here going, I'm telling you, I know, I'm guilty. But you really need to write down and ask yourself a question. Is this something I should be doing? If the answer is yes, and you give yourself an A. And if it's something you should not be doing, B.
Yeah. And, I think that's a really important distinction. And not only is it a procrastination tool, but also, so like I love technology. I love to play with it, just figure it out. I'm not afraid of it. So I'm willing to kind of dig into my back end stuff, but I shouldn't be spending my time there. I really should. Like I should be making calls. And I had to really realize that for me, what should be doing are revenue generating strategy and content.
I was just going to say that. If you're really confused, ask yourself this question as the person running the company. Is this a money-making activity or not?
Right.
If you get really stuck and don't get all slick and be like, well,
right. I could justify anything.
If someone comes to my website and they really like it, then they'll call me and then I'll make money. Okay.
This is my favorite excuse from entrepreneurs. My favorite justification for anything that they want to do. Well, if it gets me one more client, isn't it worth it? Like if I spend that $500, isn't it worth that one $10,000 client? If I, spend 10 hours in Infusionsoft, isn't it worth the one sale?
Yeah. No. Yeah. If you're playing the if game, the answer is no.
The if game. The if game drives me crazy.
If you're playing the if game, the answer is no. So quit lying to yourself because that's what you're totally doing. So this is what you're going to do. I'm going to hold up my handy dandy little book here. So if you've done this, you're going to see something that looks like this. So I have it close enough?
Yeah, you have it close enough.
And you're going to map
those activities. Yep.
You're going to map that. You're going to map your 10 through 1, your A's and B's. Okay.
I'm going to do that today.
Yeah. And so here's how it goes. If it's a 1 through 5 A, you need to learn this activity. In other words, it's something that you should be doing, but you don't do well.
Right.
So you need to learn it. If it's a B 1 through 5, it's something that you suck at and you shouldn't be doing anyway.
So get off.
So hire somebody.
Bye-bye.
And by the way, when you start, you actually should start down here in this quadrant, the B 1 through 5. You should
hire for these activities.
Yeah, you should start there. That's where you should start. You should hire there first. The reason is, number 1, you don't want to do it. Number 2, you don't like doing it. Number 3, you really suck at it. And number 4, you shouldn't be doing it. So,
and I would argue that in that quadrant, you are probably, I'm not arguing,
most time.
I would argue, but I would add to that, right, you're spending a lot of time and it's probably hindering your ability to actually grow and be successful because you're sucking in the suck quadrant.
Yeah,
versus
and you're spending you're probably spending 80% of your time there.
Yeah.
You're probably spending significant, and here's the cool thing. If you hire there first, you will actually hire someone and not micromanage them. And the reason is because you
don't want it.
Don't care. You don't want it. You're like, I just want it done. Just tell me when it's done. Go away, do it, and then bring me back magic. And as far as I'm concerned, the things that happen down there are magic.
Yeah.
I just hire magicians.
Well, it's like poof.
Yeah. I'm like, look, and then it showed up on my desk. And that's
which is all you need.
All you need.
Yeah.
Then the things that you do really well, which are your B's 1 through 10s, but you shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Shouldn't be doing it.
You should not be doing it, but you do it really well. Like my website.
I'm that way with my technology stuff. I could dig in all day and do it faster than the people that work for me, but I should outsource it.
Right.
And not be sucking my time there.
That's where you should actually, the next time you're getting ready to do that project, that's where you should just hire for someone else. And it's so hard for us to do that because in our mind we're going, but it's only going to take me a week.
Right.
If I actually,
that's $1,000 that I could be doing something else with.
If I took that week and I really valued my time and I took that week and I went and trained one person to do it and I never have to train them again, then they have it. I don't have to worry about it. And the only ones that you should be doing are anything in this quadrant here, which are 10 through 5 and their A's. I mean, 10 through 6 and their A's.
And that's for me, that's right. The content, the strategy, and the
delivery.
Yeah, delivery. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. That's what you should be working on.
So I'm curious when you think about that, because so we started with that kind of story of that friend who called me, right? Who was saying how she's kind of trying to build the process around the person. Right. And what I hear you saying is figure out the process and then put the right people in the right places, but don't build the business around the person.
Never build a business around it.
Right.
That is the complete opposite. And the thing is, what happens is people hear people, process, and technology. It's the way it's been said in Six Sigma forever.
Right.
And so we always think, well, we have to get the people first, and that's wrong. You actually want to get your processes nailed first, figure out the people. Then the reason you start here is because these people are going to come to the table.
The quadrant, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to come to the table because if it's something that you don't do well and you suck at, then you probably have a crap process.
Right.
So get someone who's
Right.
really good at it. Right. Get someone who's really good at it that has a great process. Let them come in, strategize, and streamline your process.
Right.
And then ask them, well, what technology do you need to make
it happen
for you? Right.
You know, I think that was one of the hardest lessons that I learned over time is, so I suck at process. I'm great at the vision and like, I know, you know me, right? So you're like, obviously but so my process, right? My processes are so bad. And then I hired this business manager, Laura, who's phenomenal at the process too. And I look at her process and I go, obviously, but my process was like this circuitous map of crap. And I'm like, how did I survive this long? But we don't even know.
We wonder every day. No.
That's what everybody's wondering. How does Tamara survive? I want to flip it a little bit really quickly before we go into the 6 as well and some other things in here. And one of the things that I heard you talk about when I heard you speak a couple months ago here in Colorado, we had gotten into this whole conversation around how to know where the problem is around the blueprint.
Yes.
And so will you just give us one really good example? Because I think, we all have problems. But oftentimes what I see, and I am totally guilty of this, is that I end up focusing my solution or my energy actually in the wrong place.
Right. Happens a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just hold it up. So if you have the blueprint, you can see this hopefully kind of well.
Yeah. So core income operations future. If you're listening, just buy her book and then you'll know what we're talking about.
Right. And then you'll know what we're talking about. You got to go to the B3 blueprint page. Yeah. Anyway, so what happens is you'll see that there are these 2 little arrows on here, right? And the arrows go clockwise. So if you're in the income quadrant, which is the second quadrant, and you call me and you go, I don't know, Dawnna, my sales really suck, then I'm going to start working backwards, right? Because anytime something's broken, you should take a step backwards. And it was actually designed that way on purpose because we always say it, but we never know what it really means.
Right.
Like we always say, oh, take a step backwards. Well, no,
what is backwards?
Right. I actually do want you to take a step backwards. Right. And so in this case, if you said my sales was bad, then the next step before that is your leads and opportunities. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at your leads and opportunities and I'm going to start asking questions about those. Well, are these people that are in your leads and opportunity pipeline your perfect target market? And if you're like, well, kind of no, then I'm going to go, well, let's take a step back to marketing. And if you say kind of yeah, then I'm going to go, okay, well, let's look at your sales team and your sales process. Right. So it helps you know which way to go, because if you said, oh, well, no, these aren't my leads, my right leads and opportunities. And I'm like, well, wait, why are you getting those leads and opportunities? It must be your marketing.
Right.
So now I'm going to go look at your marketing. And if your marketing sucks, then now I'm going to go look at your core. Maybe you have the wrong offering.
So basically wherever you are, wherever the wound is, you got to look kind of before it.
Yeah. You got to take a step backwards. You know, so if you're broken here, you go backwards.
Right.
You keep going backwards.
So it's interesting. So I'll just like pull back the curtain a little bit and share something that happened recently where I did exactly what you just said. Cause I've heard you talking obviously a little bit about this before, but when I launched Launch Street to a certain group of people, it bombed. And I was like, oh no, like, is it my marketing? But when I backed up, I realized it was the wrong group. Had I focused here, I would have thought the offer was wrong, but it wasn't the offer. It was who I was offering. It was my lead funnel.
And what happens most of the time is people will go, I'm not getting any sales, or I'm not getting any leads. So it must be my marketing. Right. And they 100% start working on their marketing. But what I really want people to do is not go and work on it. I want you to analyze it and ask, is your marketing bringing in the expected people? And a lot of times their marketing actually is bringing in who they expected to get. Right. But they didn't nail down their target market well enough.
Right. They're bringing in the people, but they're the wrong people.
It's the wrong people.
So wherever your challenge is, identify it and then take a step back and see what's really the problem is.
Exactly.
Oh my God. I think that's a huge insight actually, Dawnna. Like I think it's really hard to assess a challenge and where to find the solution for it. Like I said, I think we spin our wheels on the wrong thing and then we can't figure out why our solution then doesn't work.
Right. And that's why we call it a blind spotting blueprint, because it actually shows you how to deal with your blind spots. You just don't know. And I'm like, well, wait, before you go and change the world, let's just look first, Step back.
So, the other thing I really appreciate about the blueprint, as well as your 6, which I want to dig into a little bit too, is the simplicity of it. I think a lot of the models out there are very complicated, and I don't have time to learn something complicated. So let's start there, number 1. And number 2, I think the more complicated it is, the worse it ends up being in the long run. So many layers to it. I mean, it's kind of why we had that financial crash, right? Everything was
right.
Nobody knew what to do. Like, nobody knew what anything meant.
Right.
So I love the simplicity. I love the simplicity of this. And I would encourage entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs out there too, who have their business units, to really think about if they could actually take your core here, the blueprint, if they take the blueprint and actually answer all of these of what they actually are. I went through that exercise and discovered there were some things I was missing that I thought were nailed down, but they actually weren't after I went through this. So before we dive into the 6, I'd love to hear from your perspective. What are some of those myths that you think we as entrepreneurs buy into that are false, and we're kind of spinning our wheels around them, but they're just that narrative in the marketplace. It's right. All bought into.
Right. Well, I'm gonna tell you a couple of them. The first one is, and I'm gonna start with my favorite people in the world, the would-be entrepreneurs that have decided to do multi-level marketing.
Oh, MLMs,
direct marketing. What?
I'm going to make money from home.
Oh yeah. And I do, but, but here's the thing that they do totally, absolutely, positively wrong is they look at this entire product line and they think they're going to sell it to everyone. And the first thing that these companies are great at telling you is that you should sell to your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your uncle.
Right. Everyone you know.
Right. I would actually challenge them not to do that and to sit down and use this and actually go through the blueprint and walk through it, because the people that I've worked with that are in MLMs that use this, that have actually followed it, have been very successful because their target market is not their parents.
Right.
Right? Like
not everybody you know.
Right, right. So I think the first thing, the first myth that especially those entrepreneurs deal with is that they think that because this product is already successful, they don't have to do the work. Most entrepreneurs feel like if somebody's out there and they've already done it, then all they have to really do is follow that person's path.
Right.
There's some details in that path that you're not seeing. You're just seeing the shiny part. You really got to get down there and get into the meat. The second myth, the big myth that I see a lot is all I have to do is start with sales and marketing.
Right.
No.
Well, they're starting in the wrong place.
Right. You have to know your core, like you really do. And then the third myth, the myth that I think is the one that I'm the most passionate about, is that I don't need a vision.
Right. I'm just going to keep going day by day.
Yeah. Vision statements are for big companies to get etched on a plaque to put outside the men's room. Like that's what that's for.
That's just what they do with it.
Right. Yeah. Which that's where they wipe their hands when they come out of the bathroom. Yeah. And that they think there's nothing for you as a small business owner to do with a vision. But I'm going to use one of my clients that I absolutely adore, Deep Blue Communications. So they thought their corporate vision was that they had a passion for Wi-Fi, but that's actually their culture. And what they do is they put Wi-Fi in hotels around the world. But when I sat down and talked to them, their vision, actually, when we worked to pull this out, their vision is that they connect the world away from home. That's what they do.
That's a great vision.
Right.
Thank you. You're welcome. Let me guess. You had to help. You are so brilliant. With those who don't know, Dawnna, she's also a copywriter. Yes. That's a whole different podcast.
That's a whole other thing. So they connect the world away from home. And what's important about that is that your vision shouldn't be this long, drawn out, crazy thing. It's really just this one simple statement that drives every decision you make in your company. Every decision.
I'm almost speechless. Like I had to let that sit. Did you see that? I was like, I have to let that sink in for a second there. So great. So I love that one. That's a great example because I can see, can you give me an example of how that drives some of their decisions?
Yes.
So I can start thinking about so the people out there can start thinking about their visions.
So I'll use theirs and I'll use mine.
Yeah.
Because this is going to lead me into my fifth myth and that'll be the last one.
Okay.
So for them, when they're starting to work with companies, that whoever it is, their whole thing is we want to connect the world away from home, and they want to do it better than anyone else. So does this have anything to do with putting TV in hotels? No, it really has to do with putting wireless.
Yeah.
Does it have to do with putting telephone service in hotels? No, they really just want to put wireless.
Yeah.
Does it mean that they only do hotels? No, because now it kind of opens up their opportunity to look at where are people other than hotels that they would still like to be connected.
Airports, trains,
like airports, malls.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So now it helps them figure out, even when they're ready to diversify, how they're going to do it. So every decision they make is, does this help us connect the world away from home? So here's the last question. Does this mean that they're doing home wireless internet service?
No.
Because
that doesn't, you're already home.
You're already home. Right. So it drives the decision on what they're going to do.
Got it.
Here's the fifth thing that your vision does for you, more so than anything else. It transforms your business from being a commodity and a cost center to an asset. You've now become an asset to your customers. Right? So for me, when I start, because now, number one, they know, Deep Blue knows. They're like, we connect the world away from home. That is what we do. We do it better than anyone else.
Right.
And if that's not what you're interested in having, then we're not going to work together.
Right.
I want to put $1 trillion in the economy by helping businesses do something now. There's a whole social entrepreneurship part of it where they have to sign an agreement once they get to a certain point, they're going to pay greater than 60% of their employees a living wage. If they choose not to do that, I choose not to work with them because my business is an asset. It's not a commodity. So yeah, I'll make you a millionaire, but there are things that you have to sign in order to do that. Not a commodity, definitely an asset.
Right. Ooh, those are powerful. It's funny how we buy into those things and we don't even realize, we don't even realize that we're doing it. I think if we actually took a step back and thought for a second, like what you're saying makes so much sense. And just to kind of loop back to the original thing you said, I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of businesses make. And I think that some of it comes from fear of, well, I don't know what's coming next. So if I don't take this sale, if I don't go after this person, I'm never going to be successful. So I just know. So therefore I say yes to everybody.
Right.
And I want to be for everybody, because God forbid I alienate someone.
And you should be alienating people.
You should. And we talk about, in my business, we talk about being selectively inclusive. So if you're in, you are in, and you are part of the family, but selectively, because we're really not for everybody.
Well, it's just it's just like one of the things that I talk about is I don't really do the whole concept of a target market. I mean, I use the term because it's a term that people are used to, but I challenge people to do it this way instead. I don't want you to sit there and tell me who you're targeting. What I really want you to do is identify if your business was a private club, who don't you want in?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to tell you right now, I will never work with the KKK wife whackers.
What?
Right? Like, just.
I was going to give them your number, Dawnna.
I'm not working with them. Right. Right. So I never want them to walk down the street and say, Dawnna, help us.
Right.
So who are the businesses what types of businesses and what type of people do you never want to have your name fall from their lips? Start there. And I'll tell you what's funny about that. I do a lot of work with Entrepreneurs Organization. And there was this guy who called me named David Duke out of Louisiana. And I was like,
did you just freak out for a moment?
I was like, David Duke? Right. Like, this was me, like David Duke out of Louisiana. It's got to be a joke. So of course I picked up the phone, I called Kristen, and I'm like, is there a dude named David Duke out of Louisiana that's head of a chapter, like he's president of a chapter? And she goes, yeah. And I'm like David Duke? She goes, no, it's not that David Duke. I was like, oh, because that was a no. Right?
That poor guy. He needs to move to California, because that David Duke would never live in California.
Exactly.
Yeah, or New York or something.
So you really have to ask yourself that question. Who is it that you want in your private club, and who will you absolutely not let in? And instead of having a target market, have a private club and only let certain people in.
So I want to build on that, because you and I had this conversation offline about pricing too. So will you talk a little bit about how you think about pricing? Because you and I had this conversation about not just, what should you charge and what's your value, but what is the price you don't want to be, because that price would attract the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly. So remember that when you're when people make logical decisions, they make emotional decisions, they make logical justifications, right?
Yeah.
So when they justify, they're justifying on time, money, productivity, and things.
Those
being
four
better
things.
quality.
Yeah.
Those four things we talked about before. So think about the BMW.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. BMWs don't sell for $5,000.
No.
Not new ones, right?
They're barely old ones.
Right, exactly. So when they are selling their car, they get you with all the sexy hotness. You're going to be, proud of it.
The ultimate driving machine.
Jealous of you. People are going to lust after you. Your legs are going to be longer. Your ass is going to be tighter. Like the whole thing. All those benefits you get when you buy a BMW that I don't even know if you guys were aware of, but it's on the commercial, right? But then they put a price tag on it. And that price tag specifically is to exclude the people who they don't want to buy their car.
Right. Because they want a certain type of person in their car. We're representing their brand too.
Yeah. A Bugatti. When someone drives a Bugatti,
right,
they want a certain type of person in their car, period, the end.
That's interesting. I wonder moving forward how Tesla will handle that, because they have a specific brand, but they've been a little bit all over the place. Elon Musk,
right.
Kind of their pricing and what they're offering. And I'd be curious also what their vision is. Is their vision to have to change the automobile industry, or is their vision
right
to be exclusive? They've been a little bit all over the place in that.
But, and I think it's one of those things where you really have to understand Elon. So Elon's whole thing is really less about money and less about the brand of things and more about his whole social entrepreneurship,
which means the price makes sense, but it's it's interesting to see that play out relative to something so clear, right? Like BMW. BMW is so clear. I think Subaru is actually very clear about who they are too.
Apple is crystal clear.
So clear.
Remember when Apple came out, it was a $600 phone where everybody else was giving a phone away with a plan, and Apple was like $600. And here's something that people don't know about Apple. Do you know that Apple produces all the Apple commercials, whether it's for Verizon or Sprint or anyone? Just pay attention next time you're watching. They're so in control of their brand that like Verizon will Verizon will produce a commercial for Samsung. Right. And it'll be the whole Verizon thing, and AT&T will do one for Samsung. But when it comes down to Apple actually produces their own commercial, and then at the end they'll go, you can get it at Verizon.
They are the ultimate in guardianship, I think.
Yes, they are. But they're so clear on their brand and who they are, and they have no problem putting a higher price point on it, because their attitude is, we have a product that people will crawl buck naked over broken glass in the middle of winter to buy it. And stand in line for 2 days. They're happy to do it. And guess what? People do it every single solitary time. Got one. And
I caught myself just the other day saying to my husband, I wish they had Apple, my MacBook Pro had a touch screen. And Mike goes, well, why don't you just go buy whatever? And I was like, well, no. I mean, I know I want that functionality, but I'm waiting for Apple to do it. I'm not going to go.
Right.
Just doesn't even cross my mind.
What's wrong with you?
Oh my God.
Blasphemous.
Right?
You can get a new one. You can
get out of this house. Get out.
Yeah. They have like a whole bunch of husbands at Sears. Like, you can get a new one.
Right. Right. Exactly. I'm going to go put next to the Kenmore, and we're going to have a little conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
The funny thing about pricing, you say that is, every time I launch a new offering, I always get pushback from other people because I tend to go slightly higher than the marketplace. But I've done tests. So I just did an A/B test the other day where I went super low and I stayed high. And sure enough, the high brought in more customers than the super low. So, we always think that we have to drop and drop and drop and drop, but we don't.
No, it's the opposite. It's just like, okay, so I do a retreat, right? And so there are a couple of retreats that I do that are for corporate, but once a year I do a masterclass retreat that is truly for entrepreneurs who they want to learn the blueprint. They want to figure it out before they go waste a whole lot of money. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And the price point is between $4,500 and $7,500. And we stay in like this huge 12-bedroom mansion. It's only open to 10 people.
Which, by the way, I'm one. So actually what you need to be saying is it's only open to 9.
It's only open to 9 people.
Okay.
Right. But here's the thing about it. Number one, there's an application process.
Yeah.
Because it's not open. You can't just go buy it. You can't just go click and I'm going to go. No, there's an application process. I do not want people who are wasting my time. So they kind of have to come to the table ready to go. It's very exclusive. The price point is such that I want people who are serious. Now, of course, when I first did this, people were like, oh, I think maybe you should lower the price a little bit. And I was like, no, no. Mainly, there's a few reasons. Number one, we're staying in a 12-bedroom mansion.
Right. It's an experience from start to finish.
Well, not only that, I want you to know that you're staying in a mansion with someone who could afford $5,000, not someone who's like, I borrowed $900 from my auntie, my uncle, my cousin, and my boo.
And if I'm there and I'm paying $5,000 and the person next to me is paying $750 and barely making, and only starting out, nothing against them, but that's not a good use of my time to be spending time with them.
Yep. And on top of it, before people even come to the thing, they have to have read the book and done the work. Yeah. So it's like, it's one of these things where no, you can't, because let me tell you, the first time that somebody rolls up in there and they're like, I'm sorry, what's the blueprint?
Get out.
There's gonna be 9 people.
It'll be like Amityville Horror Movie.
Yes. And I'm not even gonna have to say anything. It's the 9 people. I know. What's it? How did you get in?
No.
So it's one of those where you create that exclusivity, because the question still comes down to who do you want to play in the sandbox?
Right.
And who don't you want in there? I do not want someone at my retreat talking about what's a blueprint.
Right. Well, and the thing that I've learned the hard way is those people who you say yes to, even though you know you shouldn't, whether it's a product sale or consulting or a retreat, suck all your time. And then you're not giving time
to the people who did their homework.
Right. Yeah. Who paid you, who value you and deserve it. So you're really minimizing their experience and their value from you by letting in these people. All right. We are so close to out of time and I feel like I have 80 more questions for you. So here's what I want.
Okay.
I want you to give a very brief overview of the 6. We're going to leave it a teaser because they can go find the information. And then I want to talk more about eSuitenetwork and your retreat in specific.
Okay. So let's talk about the 6. So the 6 is one of those things, if you're an entrepreneur, and of course we know the six kick-ass strategies, but now we're talking about the 6. This is really the daily 6. Mm-hmm. Here's a challenge that people run into, especially when they're new business owners, is that if I ask them, what did they accomplish today? What did they accomplish this week? And how is it that the work that they did that week actually led to profits for their business? Most of the time they can't tell me.
That's a great question.
Right? And then after 10 weeks, I go, okay, so let's measure this and let's define what you did, that worked, what didn't work, what you should be doing, what you're going to start and keep doing. And most of the time the answer is like, it's just this blank stare. So the whole premise of the 6 is that every day you should be doing 6 activities. Each activity should take no more than 45 minutes, and they should fall in the following 3 categories. Income production, so you get 2 income production tasks, 2 relationship building tasks, and 2 professional development tasks. Income production, how are you moving an opportunity further down the funnel? How are you taking an opportunity to a sale? You should be taking 1 opportunity and 2 opportunities a day at least and trying to push them further. But your 45 minutes could be spent making 45 minutes worth of cold calls. I really don't care what it is, but it has to be 2 income production tasks. Then 2 relationship building tasks. How are you reaching out to people that you've worked with before or that you'd like to work with in the future? Just 2 people a day. That's it. All I'm asking for. And then the last 2 is professional development. Hey, you know what? We all have businesses and we know our stuff don't stink, but at the end of the day, it don't always smell like roses too. Nope. So how are you going and doing something in your business where you can think about it a little bit differently, do something a little bit extra? I'll use my Facebook platform where I do the videos, the live videos.
Yep.
So I've taken those live streams and now I'm like, so what could I do to really amp these up? Well, now I share them on LinkedIn, I share them on Twitter, and I do things like that. And then I ask people to give me feedback. That feedback helps me create something better all the time.
So I will preface all this by saying that I've started doing the 6. I don't know, was it like 3 months ago now, maybe? I'm not sure. And I definitely saw, here's what I found interesting. I saw an increase in revenue and a decrease in time on social media. Interesting correlation, I thought, when I looked at that graph.
And then what we talk about is that it increases business and it increases busyness.
Right, exactly. So I would encourage all of you out there to really think about where you're spending your time and how you can do 6. And what I've discovered over time is some days the 6 takes me longer, and other days I'm done in 90 minutes because I picked up the phone, I talked to that person, I sent that email, it's not that hard.
Yeah, for the most part, I think mine takes me about 2.5 hours if I average it out.
Yeah.
So 2.5 hours a day.
Yeah. And it's really I think the beauty of it is it's compounding interest, because 2 a day of all of those over a year, and I'm not going to pretend to do the math, is a boatload of new business.
Right. So every 10,
you did 80% of it.
So every 10 weeks, you are doing 100 income production tasks, 100 professional development tasks, 100 relationship building tasks every 10 weeks. So what we actually tell people to do is on week 11, we want you to measure, because 100 is easy, right? We want to measure, and I want you to have a percentage. These are working, these are not, this is going, and so every year you should be getting close to 4 times better.
Yeah, it's I think we sometimes assess too early, or we don't, and then we can't figure out why we're not getting the results we want. So, okay, so that's the 6. So talk about eSuiteNetwork, because that's a really enticing place for entrepreneurs.
Right. So eSuiteNetwork does stand for the Entrepreneur Suite, and it is for people who are serious about business. It's not for people who are sitting at their desk and they're like, I want to make a widget that's going to make everyone happy, and it's going to make the sun rotate in a different direction. And I'm like, it doesn't rotate. So, right? So it's not for those people. It's really for someone. My target market specifically is people who have worked in business and they're trading on intellectual property. It's not for people manufacturing widgets. And what we do is we put out educational videos. It's all about education. And we do a masterclass, which is the retreats that I was talking about. We do a masterclass, and the masterclass happens twice a year. The first masterclass is truly that it's just a masterclass. And that's where you come in and you learn how to fill in your blueprint and walk away with a strategy so you'll have something to do. Like, you need to walk away and do the work. The next one that you can apply to come to is an actual eSuite retreat. And these are people who they've done the 6, they're speaking the language, they're 6.
They've got the same foundation.
They all have the same foundation. They're all dedicated. And now they're coming to a mastermind once every 6 months in order to, what do I need to do to get my business to the next level? And it's people who are like-minded. And what I think is cool is that everyone in there is really good, but everyone in there thinks they're catching up. Right. And it's limited. It's a very limited group. We don't, we leave it to like 10 to 12 people.
So like I said, I'm already going to the retreat, so you can just 9.
So 9.
You're done tonight. And I think it is, as entrepreneurs, I think it's so important, whether you're, by the way, your business is, out of your home or 50 million, like you're still at that entrepreneurial level. I think that self-investment is so important, and we miss that a lot. We tend to kind of look at like, what's that next sale? But the entrepreneurs that I know that are super successful have really realized the value of investing in those type of things.
I tell people all the time, no one ever got rich from saving. People get rich from investing.
Isn't that the truth?
You don't get rich from saving. You get rich from investing.
This is why when people tell me, oh, if you want to have more money, cut down on your lattes at Starbucks. And I'm like, well, really? Like, if I have to worry about $1.78 more, then I've got other problems.
Exactly.
My coconut latte addiction.
Yeah. And a lot of times what I tell people to do is I have a whole strategy on helping people get out of debt first.
Yeah.
And we do have this whole conversation in regards to where are you? Because I need you to be out of debt before you start this.
Yeah.
There are people who are working jobs and I'm like, nope, don't quit your job. We need to get you out of debt before you start your business. And then when they're ready, I tell them, number one thing is savings is never going to make you rich. Investing will. And I'm not saying invest in me. I'm saying investing smart.
In general.
That makes you wealthy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And I've learned that the hard way too. I mean, I've sucked it in and then not gotten to the success I wanted because I sucked it all in. So
you're saving in order to pay for something major.
Right. Saving. Well, I've got my vacation savings.
Right. Yeah.
A whole different ball game over there. All right, Dawnna, what's the one, if I were to watch this right now and then tell people where to find you, what's the one thing you want people to start doing? What's kind of that one action they can take? And then where can they find eSuite and let me take all my sticky notes off of it in the 6.
Okay. So the one thing that you really should start doing is taking an inventory of the expertise that you have and how you're going to share it. So I would tell you the core. And this isn't even about pimping my book, because you can go to eSuitenetwork and you can find some of this stuff. But quite honestly, start here, because here's the thing about the book, and this to show you how I'm not full of it. The back half of the book is all about filling it in. The front half is about
really
learning.
more of a workbook than a you're done.
Yeah, I want you to go and actually do the work. Like it's $20.
Go have to do it.
Right, go do the work.
Yeah.
So I would tell people, you got to start with your core. You have to know what it is that you bring to the table. So that's where I would tell them to start. So what was the second question?
Where can they find you? So esuitenetwork.com, where do they find the book?
Yeah, they can find, they can go to esuitenetwork.com. And actually, if they click on a link called the book, there's a 25% coupon discount on there. I'm one of those people that if you sign up on my list, I will never reach out to you to sign away.
Just goes into the void.
It goes into the void. And look, I send out something like twice a year and people will go, oh my God, you sent me an email. I'm not one of those people. You're not going to hear from me that way. You can hear from me on Facebook. You can hear from me on my website. You can hear from me on LinkedIn, but I do not spam people because it drives me nuts.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So esuitenetwork.com is where they should go to get everything.
Yes.
Dawnna, you are always, I feel like I have so many more questions, but you are always such a pleasure to have on. And it's so insightful.
And we didn't even talk about underwear. So.
Oh my God. I mean, we still have to get to best underwear on stage.
Best underwear on stage.
We filled up time with actual business. Look at us.
Thanks for hanging out with us inside Launch Street. When you're ready to take your game to the next level, join the thousands of others that are upping their innovation edge on go-to-launchstreet.com, the top online education resource and community platform for innovators looking to use innovation to get measurable results. Go to launchstreet.com.